Stranger Things Vecna has now used all his powers and come up with a different plan. We don't know what that plan is yet, but if you look closely at all the 12 children who were needed for that plan, you would have thought that the Upside Down would have come together through a portal. If you look at Hawkins in the Upside Down, that portal would connect both worlds. But back in 1979, when 11 actually banished Vecna, he didn't reach the Upside Down. Instead, he ended up in a completely different world. And whenever he travels between two different worlds, if you observe him closely, you can notice thunder around him. That thunder-like energy surrounds Vecna when he moves between dimensions. When the Upside Down was searching for one, it appeared as a completely dark, red-tinted, thunder-filled world. But when Vecna went to the place where the Mind Flayer exists, that world looked barren. No names, no land, nothing living. So what's the difference between these places? Aren't they all the same? Is the Upside Down different from the dimension Vecna visited? What about Max's mind? Is that another separate place? Many questions like these have risen, so let's break down the entire story of these different dimensions. First, we need to understand the two most important ones. The first is the right side up, our world. This is where we live. Everything works normally here, and it's suitable for human life. This is our main dimension. Below this dimension, there are many layered dimensions. You don't need a multiverse to have multiple worlds. One universe itself can contain many layers. Think of it like a loaf of bread. The top layer is our dimension, and the layer below is another layer, and then another. Sometimes these aren't layered neatly. They may exist as separate bubbles. So the top layer is our dimension, and the layer below is called Dimension X. This is the dimension Vecna fell into. Just as our world supports human life, Dimension X supports Mind Flayers, Demogorgons, Demobats, and other monstrous creatures. Dimension X looks like a vast, barren desert. Light doesn't behave normally here, and the entire place is filled with floating particles and rocks. The creatures that live here survive by consuming whatever exists in this wasteland. I believe the ruler of this place is the Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer controls every creature here through a hive-mind connection. Even though it looks like a giant skeletal being, it is actually made of tiny black particles. These black particles naturally exist in this dimension. Vecna didn't create the Mind Flayer, he only shaped it. Because Henry Creel loves spiders, he used his power to mold the Mind Flayer's particles into a giant spider-like form. But the Mind Flayer itself may be millions of years old. Vecna only gave the Mind Flayer a physical shape. He didn't create it. It seems like Vecna controls the Mind Flayer, but the Mind Flayer existed long before he arrived. Dimension X is where beings like the Mind Flayer naturally exist. In the early days, when Brenner's team tried exploring this dimension, they used the USS Eldridge to reach it. Exposure to Mind Flayer particles gave humans enhanced abilities. Henry Creel also claimed that when he ended up there as a kid, he gained powers from his contact with the Mind Flayer. But Dimension X is not easy to reach. To enter and return alive, you need portals or teleportation. Without a direct connection, you must cross a place in between, a dangerous path called the Hellscape. When 11 banished Vecna, he fell through this Hellscape first. The thunder and red lightning burned his body. Hellscape is like a barrier between our world and Dimension X, a cruel layer preventing both worlds from merging. Only beings with strong supernatural powers can survive the Hellscape. Vecna barely escaped because he already had powers. Without them, he would have been burned to ash. Think of our world as the top layer and Dimension X as the bottom layer. The Hellscape is the dangerous middle layer, like a jam between two slices of bread. Most creatures cannot cross it without a wormhole or portal. The Hellscape is filled with red lightning. Remember that detail? Now, what exactly is the Upside Down? We don't have an official explanation yet, but one theory stands out. The Upside Down is an alternate snapshot of Hawkins frozen in 1983. Everything that existed in Hawkins at that time is mirrored there. But Vecna was banished in 1979. So how did the Upside Down, a 1983 version of Hawkins, form? 11's powers give us a clue. 11 has telepathy. By suppressing all 5 senses, she can enter a dark mental space and spy on anyone's thoughts, actions, or location. In the early days, she used this to spy on Russia. This dark space is not a separate dimension, it's Eleven's mind. Using it, she can access others' consciousness. That's how Max is trapped now, inside Vecna's mental world, which feels like a different dimension. Vecna's mental world is built entirely from memories. Eleven's mental world is pitch black. Both are minds, not dimensions. Big difference. When Eleven entered her dark mindscape and saw the Demogorgon, it raises a question. How did a creature from Dimension X connect to a human world telepathically? One possible explanation is that Vecna had already taken control of the Demogorgon and was using it to track Eleven. Through this telepathic overlap, the Demogorgon's presence reached Eleven's mind. This mental connection created a small crack, a ripple between Dimension X and our world. Eleven accidentally formed a mini-portal inside Hawkins' lab. When Dimension X briefly connected with our dimension through Eleven's telepathy, a small bubble formed, the upside down. Not the whole dimension, just a pocket space. The center of this pocket was Hawkins' lab, the first place where the connection sparked. That's why the upside down mirrors Hawkins. Remember the red lightning in Hellscape? The upside down also has that red tint because it formed in that space between dimensions. It's a mini-world created from that collision. Hawkins' lab is the core of this bubble. When the first portal opened, it merged a tiny part of Dimension X with a tiny part of Hawkins, creating the upside down. That's why objects from both worlds appear there. Vecna explained that all he needed was a gate. Eleven opened that gate, forming the upside-down bubble. Eleven's unique ability to open dimensional doors hasn't been fully explained yet, but in Season 5, Mike mentions cleric abilities, teasing that Eleven may have a dimensional dose, a supernatural link that allows her to open portals. We need more details about the Upside Down. The Duffer Brothers confirmed they'll explain it deeply in Volume 2. So, what do you think about these different dimensions? If you have your own theories, comment below. And don't forget to hit that like button. You guys are awesome on the guys' side.